Actually, I came from the Bronx, and so did Will Calhoun and the guys. And the Bronx back then was a stone cold ghetto. But it's not what you would think. People go, ooh, what unfortunate people. What we didn't have in money, we had in family. And unfortunately, a lot of my friends between the Bronx and Harlem started getting into gangs, me too. And most of them ended up going to jail or worse. And somehow, I was in the Boy Scouts. I don't know if y'all have that. Y'all have that in Nigeria? And the scout leader, you know, he was Mr. Jarhead. And he said, I need somebody to help me because I'm playing guitar and I don't have anyone to play with. If you come to my house after the scout meetings, I'll teach you how to play guitar. So I said, okay, why not? What the heck? You know, because I lived in the Bronx and the scouts were in Harlem. So I went to his house and he was trying to teach me this guitar, but my ear went to the bass, just by itself. And the next thing I know, I wasn't listening to guitar, so I didn't choose the bass chose me. And I was gone. I was 11 years old. And I was listening to you know what that is? Can't stand it! And I was like, whoa, who is this bass player? Then I heard a thing, man, they went, get up, get on up. Then I was hooked. So some people of my friends became alcoholics. I was a bassaholic. It took over. And from that moment forward, I just kept playing and playing, you know, and I would play in after-hour places because it was illegal for my age group to play. And it turns out now, 20-something years later, the guy who actually went was Bootsy. And fate has it that both of us are now playing together. And he played on that, and I played on Living in America. So we both did James Brown cuts. And this is just funny how this works, because he was one of the first bass players I listened to. And here we are, playing together. But that was the Bronx. And then my friends started to get pissed off at me because they said, man, you don't come out with us anymore. You don't gangbang and go to the clubs and drink 40s, we call it. And I'm like, well, no, I'm interested in this thing. And they went, oh, you're a punk, right? So as time went on, I kept playing this, playing it, and playing it. And my first bass was a $10 cheap bass that a junkie next door needed money, and I just gave him $10 and he gave me this cheesy bass and I learned it. Till I got my first Fender in the Bronx. And from that, I played on that thing and couldn't get money for a case. So the box that it came in, the carbo box, disintegrated from being old and being rained on and everything, but I got known for bringing this raggedy box. But that's how I learned. Bronx. It's the hood, but it was good for me to learn how to play.
In New York, when you were growing up, there was a lot of great live playing opportunity for you to get out and really cut your teeth, right?
Good question. Back in the Scouts, once I started becoming a bassaholic, now my mom used to get mad at me because I would go from the Bronx to Harlem. And by the way, I was on 173rd Street in the Bronx, and the next stop down was J-Lo. I used to see her on the train, and I'd be like, hey, who is that? Turned out to be J-Lo. And she was struggling at that time. And I mean, all of us were trying to make it in the business. And I would go down to the New York, Harlem again. And because I couldn't get in the clubs, I would get a milk crate and sit outside Small's Paradise, sit outside Club Barons, and you're probably too young to remember those names, but that's where George Benson was playing with Jimmy Smith. And in King, what's his name? King Curtis. Mm-hmm. King Curtis and all those guys was playing, and Jerry Jamont and all those guys, and I would sit outside and listen through the door, and they called me Youngblood. And it got to the point where they would take a break. And then when they come out to smoke and take a break, they got used to me. How did you do that? And what did you, how, who, tell me. And at first they were like, get out of here. And after a while they got to know me and they started teaching me what they did. That's how I learned. So my university was a school of milk box. That's how I learned. And I would ask him, I said, how did you do that? And they took mercy on me, which is why I'm an advocate for kids now, because they took mercy on me and showed me. So I learned sitting in Harlem, and my mother would be pissed off because she'd think I'd get mugged or robbed or sitting out in the street, but that's how I learned.
She loved you.
Yeah, she loved me, but I mean, I had to sit out those clubs and listen because we didn't have YouTube and www.howdoiplayliketmstevens.com. I had to go down there and listen through the door. That's how I did it. And I found out what they did, and then I took it my way, which is what I think all of us should do. You know, because you remember now, I've been at NAMM now, what, 25 years? And we used to have the big jams. In fact, it was me and Billy Sheehan playing with Van Halen and all those guys in one of those circle round theaters on a NAMM show, and everybody was going, and everybody was going, hey, and all of a sudden this black man came up, heavyset guy, and went, audience melted. They went nuts, and we went, well, how's that possible? He said, boy, it ain't how many notes you play, it's hitting the right note at the right time with the right heart. That man is B.B. King. I'll never forget him for saying that. Then I learned, okay, I can have all that I want. But what that is vocabulary. Meaning if you're trying to learn a language like you just heard me speaking Japanese in the elevator, you need vocabulary. But you can't always use the entire vocabulary, you just learn it. Then you choose the words. So I teach my kids, yeah, I know you want to go. I know you want to. You can't wait to do that, but what about, good God. Notice I'm not even playing the bass. It's not about how many notes. What am I doing? Everybody, come on, y'all. It's the intention. I didn't put my finger on the bass. It's how you hit them. So it's not always, who cares? But it's good to have that because you want to know how to get around changes, and sometimes you need that. But how many hit songs go, how many housewives can sing that? You can't. But can they sing? Can you sing that? That's the hook. That's what people hear. But to be able to do the vocabulary, I could also play other things in that. But I learned about the groove. That's what I learned early on. In 1978, I don't know if you were born yet.
Oh, yeah.
He was born. I was playing, and this is in a biography, and I played all my baddest licks. Connecticut. And I said to the guy, I said, did you like what I'm playing? He said, it's all right. What you mean it's all right? I played all my baddest licks. That's your problem. What do you mean my problem? He says, you're too busy playing your baddest licks. He says, have your ears bigger than your head. What do you mean ears bigger? What are you, crazy? He said, no, if you're listening, you'll know what to answer. The drums go, good morning, hello, everything is going, yeah. He says, it's a conversation, that's magic. That's when you begin to play magic. You know who that man was? Miles Davis. From that moment forward, he said, stop playing what you know, play what you feel. And I said, well, suppose I make a mistake. He said, a mistake is a gateway to something new. He says, if you always play what's right, you'll never find anything. But somebody found what a flat 5 was. You think that was a mistake? Probably. So they're going, oops, oh, oops, oh my God. And they found something new. So he said, allow yourself to experiment, find new things. And he said, a mistake is not the worst thing you can make. He says, you'll probably find a gateway to something new. So I'm very fortunate to get advice from people that high up. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Second boss told me, if you play above the 12th fret, I'm going to dock you for every note you play up here. What? I don't care about it, what you do up here. It's what you do here. And I played, what's that? Don't get me wrong, the Pretenders. Chrissy Hine, she taught me the art of pop songwriting. And she said, the pop stuff don't go up here. It's here. So then I combine the two things of the jazz, improvisation, and of course, one of my favorite bands to play with, Living in America, Mr. James Brown. You couldn't call him James, you had to call him Mr. Brown. I learned how to funk with him and George Clinton and P-Funk, along with the pop songwriting of Chrissy, along with the improvisation and big ears of Miles Davis, and that's what makes a T.M. Stevens.